What's up, Hollywood Raw family? Welcome to our YouTube channel. Like, subscribe, tap the bell, do what you got to do. Support us. Leave a comment down below. Dax, tell us about our guest today.
Yeah, so we got Anna David, and I don't know if that name rings a bell for people, but the book she wrote might ring a bell. It's called Party Girl, and Party Girl was huge. So back in 2007, this book came out, and it was right in the craze of Britney and Lindsay and Paris and all of that. And this book was just getting so much buzz. They were talking about making it into a movie, but it was all about kind of around her life and partying and being
around celebrities and nightlife,
this kind of stuff. And so now she's going to be re-releasing it because it kind of fell off there for a little bit.
Yeah.
The rights were bouncing around. But I'm curious to talk to her because she has been in the media industry for so long. She's been a journalist. She's worked at almost every magazine, website out there, people, and all kinds of places. And she's gone to the party. She's gone to the Oscars. She's gone to the Emmy. She's gone to all of them. And so I'm just give me your stories.
Yeah, I want to hear about her experiences.
I want to hear your experiences because I know my experience working on red carpets and crap, but what is your experience? And I know she's had run-ins with huge celebs, dated big celebs. So I don't know. Anyway, welcome to the podcast. Anna, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
No, I'm so excited to talk to you. I think, so here's the thing about our podcast. We love talking to people that are on the inner world of entertainment news and have experienced real, parties and things that most people can't relate to or talk about. And we like to just push down that fourth wall and just be real. And so that's the reason I really wanted you on here to be tell us about some of these parties. Cause if you don't know the name Anna David, she is behind Party Girl. And this is a really well-known book. And as long as I've heard it, it was back in 2007 when it was released. Is that about that? I remember there being stories that came out that this was going to be made into a movie. People were freaking out about it. Everyone wanted these stories. And so when I saw your name come up, I'm oh, I want to have her on the podcast because I think this could be an interesting chat about your life, the parties that you've been to, the world that you lived in, and that's what I'm excited to talk about.
As a celebrity journalist.
Yeah.
It's
and the boring world I inhabit today.
No, listen, I am a post-entertainment news guru, and it's a lot nicer on this side.
Yeah.
Kind of is.
It's crazy. It's when you're in entertainment news and just news, you're constantly going. It never ends. And that's the exhausting part. It doesn't end at 5 o'clock. There's constantly shit going down. I remember when in New York, when Lindsay Lohan would come to New York, I would always fucking lose sleep at night because you knew something was going to happen when Lindsay Lohan was in New York.
And if you missed it, you're in huge
trouble. And I remember one night I went out and I was like, fuck, I guarantee Lindsay Lohan's in New York. Something's going to happen. And sure enough, I think she got arrested that night. And I was like, I knew it. There's always shit going on, especially, at times when, what's her name? The Nickelodeon star, Amanda Bynes.
Oh, yeah.
Amanda Bynes was going crazy. That was the worst thing for me I hated when shit like that happened in New York, or then people were in New York because you knew something was going on. And luckily, it's calmed down in the last few years. You don't really have those type of issues anymore, at least in New York. But so
to tell us your
story. Yeah. Where did you start? Where were you working?
Introduce our fans to your backstory.
Okay, but then I want to go back to the crazy ladies and how that affected all of our lives. So I got into this a long time ago in the 90s when entertainment journalism was so different. There was no TMZ. There was no real entertainment online. It was called celebrity journalism. I worked at People magazine as what they called a full-time freelancer, which is an oxymoron, but it was a way that they could get away with paying. You get paid so much more as a freelancer anyway. I was like, this is awesome. And I was so clueless and had such big stars in my eyes. I don't know if you guys look back and go, oh God, Oh God, I was so naive. But I think what happened with me, it's like I grew up in Marin County. There was nothing Hollywood about it. I went to college in Connecticut. And then my college boyfriend ended up becoming this huge movie star, Matt Damon. And I think that I just watched and I was like, wait, what? And it kind of screwed me up. I had this bizarre, like, why didn't they take me with them? I'm not an actress. I was just like, how did Bennett and Matt, like, what? And I started working at People and I was fired. I've been fired from every job I've actually ever had, which is really wonderful that I'm a great entrepreneur because I am far better at employing people than I am at being employed. But I worked at People and I basically would just go to premieres and stand on the press line. And the weirdest thing about being an entertainment journalist back then is one night I'd be covering for People, another night for Premiere. Sometimes I'd be calling on behalf of Vanity Fair because I became a freelancer. And you were treated so differently depending on the outlet. Literally, people would hang up on me. And then I'd call back from another outlet and they'd want to take me to dinner. It's so gross. It's so gross.
What you just said right there was so pure Hollywood. I can't even explain it. Like, for people that don't know anything about red carpets or anything, like, when you get to a red carpet, there's literally spots for the bigger entertainment. So you have like ET at the very front, and then you have Access Hollywood, and then, and it goes down the line. The further down the line you get, the less important you are. So you know that you are not an important outlet if you are at the very end. And when you're a celebrity, you know not to stop at the end because it's a waste of your time. So when you're small and you're trying to get into the industry, you're just sitting out there like begging for people to come over to you, and they don't. It's wild. It's like a hierarchy that no one really knows about.
But don't you remember who was kind to you and who was an asshole?
100%.
Oh, I just remember, I will say, so I worked at People, fired, worked at then I went to Premiere, where again, I was like treated so well. And that was the irony. So I was this crazy party girl. I ended up going to rehab, got sober in 2000, immediately hired at Premiere Magazine to do this column called Party Girl. And I thought that was hilarious. Here I am, newly sober, totally boring. I hang out with my cats and other sober people drinking coffee. And I've got this like glam title. And they sent me, to the Oscars. And so I was sent as a real guest to things like the Oscars and the Emmys and the Golden Globes. And
was there ever a moment that you were like, I can't believe I'm getting paid to go to the Oscars, which people would pay money to be there, and you're getting a paycheck for it?
But I had the most miserable night ever. So first of all, I didn't get a +1, whatever. I'm not bitching about that. I literally was in the last seat. So I couldn't even see the screen that was there to show the people who couldn't see anything. And have you guys ever covered Oscars? Or one of those big shows like that?
Emmys, but not Oscars.
Emmys, yeah.
Okay, here's why it's so stressful. It's over. You can't track who was nominated and who has lost. So I was just like in this brain thing, like, oh my God. And I was so nervous. And so the first person I saw was, Juliette Binoche?
Name doesn't ring.
You don't even know who she is. This woman made me sob. She basically is standing there, and I knew she had been nominated, but I was like, did she win? Did she lose? What just happened? And it was a movie called Chocolat. And I said, I remember I was so nervous, and I was like, how did you get ready for tonight? And she goes, what? And she goes, who are you? And I said, I'm from Premiere Magazine. And she said, I don't believe you. And I said, how did you get ready for tonight? And she goes, I did the Alexander technique. And she says it in this strong French accent. And I had never heard of the Alexander technique. Forgive me. And I just go, what? And she goes, do you know what a dictionary is? Go look it up. And I burst into tears.
Yikes.
And I'm a highly sensitive person. So it got better from there, but it's not like I was having the glamorous experience at all.
Yeah, no, I think award shows in general are very awkward because, again, when you're doing red carpet, I've only done a couple red carpets in my life because I went from TMZ doing red carpets to immediately being like, why are we doing red carpets? This is pointless for us because this is not our bread and butter. But I remember you have like 30 seconds to come up with this amazing question And most of the time, the celebs don't want to talk about that. They want to promote something, but you have to ask them about something salacious going on in the news. But then their publicist says right before it, don't ask them about this. It's just an awkward,
so uncomfortable,
hard thing. I hated red carpets.
Yeah, they're not fun. They're so uncomfortable, so fake, and it's not even a good interview because they're performing. Everyone's performing. It's just people walking in the background. There's the publicist wants to be in the shot too. I've had, from the red carpet interviews I've done, I've had publicists like stand in the background, purposely do it because they want to be seen with the celebrity. That's the most frustrating thing. Who was some of the people that went out of their way to be very, very nice to you that you always remember, like, hey, they were good people on the red carpet?
And so, by the way, that Juliette Binoche thing wasn't carpet. That was inside the governor's ball. So it's a different thing to be abusive inside the venue. A lot of them are abusive on the carpet. But you know what? When I was doing red carpet, you know who I remember just being so kind? Ted Danson and Mary Steenburgen. So kind. And then, unsurprisingly, Tom Hanks and Rita Wilson. I remember, I think it was the Golden Globes. I was in walking through one of the hallways, and he asked me to take their picture with his camera. It was pre, iPhones. He had a camera. Asked me, he's that cool.
You know who I thought was just a rude jerk was Tom Brokaw.
Really?
He was such an ass. The day I saw him at it was an Autism Speaks event. Clearly everyone's there, trying to raise money. And I remember trying to interview him, and he was just such a dick. And I'm like, why are you being rude to me? You're on the red carpet. You clearly stopped to talk. Why are you being rude? So that was one person that stuck out in my mind that was being rude. As a good person, Jillian Barberie.
Always fun.
She was awesome.
Great. Yeah.
Pink was great to me.
Really?
Yeah. Which is surprising.
Yeah.
And I'm a big Pink fan.
Yeah.
And Dennis Rodman was actually really good to me.
Okay.
How about you?
I would say I was from the red carpets I've done a bunch, but I remember I've done so many, to be honest with you, but I remember of one of the later ones when they did the Shaft movie. I think it was a Shaft movie, the premiere, and Samuel L. Jackson got there late, but he made sure to stop and do one question with everyone down the whole entire carpet, even to the lesser people. And everyone was pretty much getting ready for the movie, but he made sure to at least get one question in with every single person on the red carpet. And I was like, you know what, that was just a nice little gesture. Was it the best question? Was it a great thing? No, but at least that he went to was way to do something like that was actually very, very nice. Who was all the people on the red carpet that was that you noticed was very actually, let me ask you this. On the red carpet, did you think it was the publicists being dicks to the lesser outlets, or wouldn't want to bring them all the way down, or was it the celebrity themselves?
Everybody. I mean, I think it was the most. Well, so first of all, backtrack. I have a picture of me with Dennis Rodman using my head as kind of like a basketball, it looks like, because one of our clients is his agent. And then Jillian Barberie reached out to me about doing her book. I have a publishing company where we publish books for thought leaders, and she's cool. She's really, really great.
I love Jillian. We've had her on the show before. Yeah, we had her right after she got her cancer. Yeah, and she had her double mastectomy, and we were her first interview after having all of that done. She was amazing. She's such a good friend of ours. But yeah,
she's the best.
She was really good.
So you're working for these outlets, right? And what did they want you to do? Besides going on the red carpet, what was your job entail? What were they looking for exactly? Are they looking for just tell me about the character? There's got to be more there that they want you to really sort of do.
Well, working for people is an absolute nightmare on every level, because first of all, when I worked there in the 90s, they really thought it was elite journalism and had this attitude that they were the best reported magazine ever. And they would do things, back then, a lot of people could get away with lying about their age. You can't anymore. But if somebody would say their age, we would then check it with the DMV. And if they were lying, they would think we were going to print 32 and we're actually printing 45 or whatever. But they were, no matter what carpet you went to and came back, they'd be like, you forgot to ask this and you forgot to ask that. But the one that sticks out, well, the other thing about that is that I'd be shoved there, when I was at People, I'd be shoved there with Us Weekly and Who or whatever. And they'd only answer once. So you'd all get the same quote. You'd all kind of shove your tape recorder there and get the same quote. But for some reason, what sticks out in my mind is when I was at Premiere, we were putting together an issue on like mothers and daughters, and it was a Julia Roberts movie. And I went to, and my boss basically said, you got to get a quote, no problem. You just go to her premiere tonight and get this quote. And I remember, I forget what the question was, but I sort of shouted out, I got her attention. And I shouted out like, what do you and your mom like to do together, or something stupid? And she looked at me and said, why would you ask me that question? She had to know, like this, I'm just like a poor girl trying to get a quote. She took the time. She's always touting about how much she loves her mom. Just give me a quote. And then I have to go back and have failed because, so you really, I get that we can all be caught at bad times. And I'm sure plenty of celebrities have come off like assholes when they were just having a bad day. But I think they really forget that, like, we're all people. You know who was so cool? This is actually a super funny story. So when I worked at Premiere, I did a story on Naomi Watts. Her very first, it was Mulholland Drive. She was just like breaking out. And she was so cool. But when you do stories like that, you sort of get used to thinking you're becoming best friends with one of the celebrities. And then you realize later you were just the person that pressed play and record. And that's all they understood. So that happens with Naomi Watts. Then I get assigned the cover story for Cosmo on Kate Hudson for the movie How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. And they send me to Goldie Hawn's house. That's where she's, I wait there for her. I end up like talking to her brother forever. We have the most intense, she bakes me a pie. I remember the show 24 was really big then. She's like, watch 24 with us after it's over. I leave and think we are best friends. And I remember my friend who worked at People saying to me before, she's going to charm the hell out of you. And I was like, oh, whatever. I can see through that. Anyway, I leave. I think we might be best friends. The story runs. Then at that time, I was like dating this Hollywood guy, and I was going as a real invited guest to a lot of stuff. And I was at this event standing there, and I see Kate Hudson walk in, and she goes,
your best friend, of course.
Yeah. And she goes, it's you. And I see her put her arms out, and I'm like, oh, my best friend, we're being reunited. And I realize she's rushing over to Naomi Watts, who is standing to my right. And I was the person who pressed play and record. And then I remember, like, ironically then doing a junket for this movie Le Divorce that they were in together, and sitting there, and then Naomi Watts comes up to me and she's like, why are you not saying hi? So it was always very confusing who would actually know you were a person and who wouldn't.
Yeah, I think that when they realize that you're a real person, and I think it's the stars that will actually say hi, like you're saying, acknowledge you, remember you from a previous interview. Those are the ones that are actually super successful. I think like George Clooney, he is someone that will remember interviewers by their name, say hi to them, acknowledge them. And I think it's actually taken them to a whole nother level. So take me back to your book and Party Girl and how that came about. Because that I think has made such an impact in entertainment news back in 2007 that I'm curious how you got to that point of writing the book.
Well, so as I said, I got sober. I got this job at Premiere. I did this column called Party Girl. And then I was fired from Premiere, but that one wasn't my fault. They discontinued the column. That was like really the only time it wasn't my fault, but it wasn't. And what had happened is I had a friend, and she actually is on E! now. She was a friend I worked for, Mel Bromley. I don't know if you know her, but like so Mel and I knew each other from Us Weekly. She used to live in London. I went to London and I was staying with her, and we were talking about, oh, I've always wanted to write a novel. No, I've always wanted to write a novel. And she said, well, why don't we do a thing where we each write 500 words of our novels and we send it to each other every Sunday. We're not going to read each other's writing, but we're just going to be accountable. And I live in LA where like you say like, I'll see you tomorrow, and you don't show up. And I'm so conditioned to live in such a flaky place that I didn't really think she was serious. And so the following Sunday, she sends me the first 500 words of her book. And I was like, oh my God, she was serious. I better write something. So I write something. I'm like, whew, that's done. Next week, I get her next 500 words. And I go, oh my God, she was that serious? And so those ended up being the first 1,000 words of Party Girl. I started writing it. I didn't really know how to write a book. At that point, I'd written for all the magazines. I'd written for Details and Cosmo and Playboy and all the things. And I just kept going. And then I got very lucky. An agent who had been a fan of I had a sex column at the time for a magazine called Razor. She was a fan of that column. She reached out to me. She sold the book to HarperCollins, like within a few days of signing me. Dream scenario. They paid me good money. It was all really great. And then Judith Regan was fired in this huge scandal. And the book that was supposed to be this big deal, it got a ton of press. There was a huge bidding war over the movie rights. But that was 2007. There was no publishing company to get it into bookstores. So the sales didn't perform as expected, but like the buzz was really good. Mm-hmm. So I have reacquired the rights and I am re-releasing it. I don't know when you guys are releasing this, but September 15th of 2021, I am re-releasing it under my own imprint. And now the movie, it's been optioned over and over and over again. Melanie Griffith had the rights at one point. The producers of The Irishman had the rights. And now I am working with, it's somebody who has won an Oscar. I'm not allowed to say, but we are so close. But you know how Hollywood works. Like it could never happen. It could become a huge movie that shoots next week. You just never know.
Okay, but give people a like description of what the book is about. If they've never heard of it, if they weren't a part of the buzz back in 2007, how would you describe the book?
It's a novel, and it's about a wild and crazy girl who gets a job documenting her wild and crazy life right when she gets sober. So she has to create a persona based on who she used to be. And so she has to act like she's this crazy party girl when actually she's sober. And it's sort of what happens when the conflict between trying to pretend you're something you're not meets up with what you really want. So, and the script, so I wrote the screenplay and now it's been completely modernized and now she's a podcaster. But the book is very 90s, which I love.
So this is your life, would you say?
It was very much based on my life. They call it a roman à clef when it's a novel that's very autobiographical. And I think most novelists, their first books tend to be quite autobiographical and you're supposed to be very coy about it. And when I was promoting the book, they're like, is this you? I'm like, yeah, it's me. I didn't know I wasn't supposed to say that. But yeah, a lot has changed, but almost every scene is taken from my own life. Yes.
Now, are celebrity names altered for the book or are they?
Yes.
Because like, for example, does Matt Damon make an appearance in the book because you mentioned him before and you growing up with him? Does he make a mention?
He does not, because he wasn't in that slice of life. But I will tell you okay, so here's one that does. It's not a name you'll care about anymore, but it's a kind of good story. Seal, remember him?
I mean, don't care about. That's a huge name. He's still famous at the end of the day. Let's hear it.
Okay. So when I worked at People, I was assigned a profile on him. And the thing with People is they were obsessed with getting the celebrity that you interviewed them in their home. Like nobody cares, but they did. And he wouldn't agree to that. So I go to this hotel. It was what is that one? It's on Burton Way. I can't remember.
Beverly Hilton?
Beverly Hilton. Anyway, so I go there and he's got this manager with him and he's immediately super flirtatious. This is before he was married to Heidi Klum. He's just like, darling, blah, blah, why don't you come into the bedroom and interview me? And like nobody would get away with this shit anymore. This was, back then. I didn't care. I was super flattered. And then I'm doing this interview with him and he's like, we should finish this interview at my house. Don't tell my manager, but why don't you come over tomorrow? And I was like, it's kind of naive, just going like, great, look at me. I scored the home interview. And so he gives me his address, calls me the next day. I go over there and I realize immediately that I'm the most naive person in the world, that he has no intention of doing this interview. And I have no intention of sleeping with him. I was like, no. And so basically we both realize that we want different things, and it's sort of awkward, and I leave. And then the next day, my editor at People says, "Oh, so we've just turned out that Seal has a girlfriend. Did you ask him about that?" And I was like, no. And they go, now you got to find out about that. And so I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ. So I text him. I have to ask him about that. Don't hear back. So I call the manager, the mean manager, and she goes, "Oh, I'll find out and call you back." And then she calls me and she goes, "Seal told me you went to his house." Like, as if I had bought a star map and showed up there. It's like, yeah, I went there because he invited me. And she's like, "We are not answering any more of your questions." So anyway, I did put that in. I fictionalized that and put it in the book because it was too ridiculous not to.
How many situations have you been in like that where there's just a huge celeb that uses their power, their fame to like seduce you, even though you're interviewing, you're doing something, you're doing your job? Or
be fair, what?
Or just when you're out partying anyway.
I mean, to be fair, I was up for the seduction if I was into it. You know, I wasn't up for it with Seal, but like, you know, I'll tell you, like, I really I am so grateful that the Hollywood disease has left me, because I felt like so many people come to Hollywood to sort of, you know, be the chosen one. And I felt like I came to be the chosen one's chosen one. And it was really just came down to insecurity. I just felt like, well, wow, if so-and-so picks me, then that means I'm really valuable and really worthwhile. And so I, you know, like I made out with a lot of them and not been in relationships with any of them except Matt back before he was famous.
Who was the best kisser?
That's there is, yeah. This one, I would just feel so cheesy. I would feel, because this is I'll tell you when we're not recording, this is like a real good one. The best. So it was inhumane.
Actor,
yeah.
A-list?
I'll tell you after. Yeah.
This is fun. It's a guessing game.
Yeah. Can we just play a guessing game and see if we guess the person? Have they ever been in a movie?
Okay, no. Because okay, I'll tell you just one more thing about that. So he ended up kind of blowing me off. We went out a couple times.
Where'd you meet, by the way?
At a coffee shop, mutual friends.
So it was like a blind date, or?
No, it was, I saw someone I knew at a coffee shop, and this person was with him.
Oh, gotcha.
And then they said,
like, what movies were they in together?
They weren't in anything together.
Oh, okay.
You're not going to get this out of me. I'm too good at this.
We're trying.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
yeah. Nice attempt to trick, but here's one thing. So I was very like brokenhearted that this person didn't like want me to be his girlfriend or whatever. I never slept with him, by the way. And then I was at a party, and this manager I knew came up to me and was like, "Hey, blah, blah, blah." And I immediately knew he thought I was that celebrity's wife, because I look enough like her that people had said that. Okay, so that's a hint. And it felt so tragic. I was like, no, I'm the girl he blew off.
When you went, you know, obviously at that time you're going out a lot. Who was the most fun celebrity at parties?
You know, again, this was the 90s. You know who was a big fixture? Name you'd never hear anymore? Steven Dorff.
Oh, yeah.
He's kind of known for that. He got around, right?
He was everywhere. And
I don't, you know, for people to see him, you know, what was so cool about him? Why was he everywhere? What was his deal?
But he like grew up in LA, so he like knew everyone, right? Like that was his thing. He knew everyone in Hollywood.
He was super handsome, and I think he had like a very promising career. It just didn't pan out. I mean, he was an actor who was in things. I don't remember what, but he wasn't a bad actor at all. So he was around. Oh, like people like Stephen Baldwin was always around. I'm trying to think. Then later, so because I had two incarnations, because I worked at People in 96, 97, and then I worked at Premiere in 2000, 2001. And so then it was different names. Then, back in the day, who used to hang out? Ben Stiller and Steven Dorff used to hang out all the time. What a duo.
Yeah.
Did you ever party with DiCaprio? Or
no.
Because I feel like someone that like goes out and parties, but you don't ever see that side because he's so reclusive. So I'm just curious what he's like inside the club.
No, I once did see the Pussy Posse at a party. I was like, oh, that's like whatever, Lucas Haas and whoever they are.
Yeah.
But no. I was once invited to like what was it? It was like a private poker thing that Amanda Demi did, and he was there playing poker. But
have you ever seen a celebrity so drunk they're puking? I know it sounds so stupid, but I don't know. Like they're just black.
Not puking, but I will tell you that when I got to go to the Vanity Fair Oscar party when I worked at Premiere, and the way they handle that is they let you in for like 20-minute increments. And okay, yeah, this is a good fun little story I can tell you. I had recently met Owen Wilson and was like hanging out with him a little bit. And so I go to the Vanity Fair thing, and I'm there, and I feel bad saying she was so drunk, and she was so nice because she was so drunk. I was basically hanging out with this other, I think a girl who worked at People. We sort of each had our 20-minute allotment that we were like allowed to wander through the Vanity Fair party, and no one's giving us the time of day. And then this one person, Ellen Barkin, she was drunk and she was so nice, and we were just so happy somebody was being nice to us. And so then, my Cinderella's clock is ticking, right? And Owen sees me, and he comes up. He's like, "Hey," I don't even think he like literally barely knew my name, but he knew me, and he was like, "Hey, come with me." And he's holding my hand. And right then, this guy who works for Vanity Fair comes up, and he's like, "Miss David, your time is up." And I've literally got Owen Wilson holding my hand, trying to drag me in, and that Vanity Fair guy could not have cared less. He was like, "You're out." And they literally just drag you out when your 20 minutes are up. That's pretty fun party, though.
Do they give you like a little band or something? Like, are they just watching you the whole 20 minutes?
They are that good at the job that there was no band. Of course you think I'm going to get in here and they're going to like lose track of me. It's a huge party. They do not lose track of you.
That is so crazy.
Who have you ever seen when you were out partying? Did you ever see a celebrity get into a fist fight?
I don't think I saw any, but I wrote Tom Sizemore's book. That was you know who that guy is?
Yeah, sure. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I worked with him. Yeah. So I that was a New York Times bestselling book. By some miracle, I made it out of there. So I had to work with him for like a year. And so, although I never witnessed any of his fist fights, I sure heard about them a lot, and I witnessed that sort of behavior constantly.
Did you ever run into like, I'm trying to think of that time frame of when you were really in that party scene? Did you like, that was like when Friends was big. Did you ever run into like any of the Friends cast? Did they ever go out and party? Like they were just on top of the world. So I got to imagine that they were the cream of the crop at that point.
Not then. I got to know Matthew in recovery. We got sober around the same time. But no, I mean, here's what I have to really clarify. My scene wasn't that cool. I was on the red carpet. I was like the hired help. And then what's ironic is I got sober, and then suddenly I got cool. Then I was invited inside. And a lot of that is because recovery in LA, I remember showing up at these meetings and being like, wait, these people are funny and smart and attractive and sometimes famous, and these people could be anywhere they want to be, and they're at this meeting. So it's kind of funny. I just do feel like before sobriety, I was always trying to like claw my way in this sort of sad way. And then I stopped caring. And then it was sort of like, hey, come in, the door's open, Yeah,
I actually wonder that like in like recovery in LA, especially like in Dickie Roberts, David Spade was like bringing his headshots to like AA meetings, in LA. Like, do you think some people actually go to those meetings to meet with celebrities and kind of network and help out their career?
I once saw something so ridiculous. 99.9% of the time, people are so respectful. And it's just like anywhere in LA, you're supposed to act like you don't know who the person is, you know? I have seen some of the biggest celebrities be so cool in meetings, sort of going up and talking to the homeless, crazy people that no one else talks to. One time I saw a very big musician was the speaker, and somebody came in. I've been sober 21 years. I'd never seen anything like this. And she had like records and was like, "Hey, can you sign this?" And he just was super cool about it. He's like, "I won't do that here. Sorry, honey."
Yeah, that's holy shit. That's like,
yeah. And
you're like, no, I got to be a normal human in here, just like everyone else. We're on the same lane, same level.
But there was a terrible thing with my first year of sobriety. Somebody tape recorded 2 celebrities speaking and sold it to the tabloids, and it was the same guy. Yeah, we all knew who it was. It was really gross.
Did that video come out?
It was an audio.
Someone published that.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Who was the person?
Well, now I'm like, now it's been forgotten. So then I'd be sort of like re-breaking their anonymity.
Because I mean, if it's published, it's out there. So I'm just curious, just for story purposes.
I think it was Anthony Hopkins.
Gotcha.
That's so.
He's a nice guy too.
Like, that's the one place
nice.
you could feel safe because you're really exposed in a situation like that. You're trying to be honest and vulnerable. Wow. Because I know that there's like being in the entertainment industry, and I looked through a lot of paparazzi photos. I remember often photos would get submitted in of outside a recovery home or outside of a meeting, and those were always off limits. It was like, no, you will never publish a photo of someone walking into a meeting because they're there to better themselves, to get help. And so it was like too much of a vulnerable spot. I can't imagine someone publishing that audio.
How did you know it was so I had an experience one time where I started as soon as celebrity, and then they walked into a rear door, and I was like, what? And then I realized it was that. And then I saw another celebrity, same thing, going to a church, and I was like, whoa, that was kind of weird. Like I realized it after. But for you, Dax, who's a person who your job was to purchase photos, how did you know they were going to
a lot of the time they would be listed as that.
Oh, really?
So attending an AA meeting.
Gotcha.
And you're like, okay, well, no, not buying those photos.
Yeah,
you got to move on from that. So did you have a friendship with Matthew Perry because of your guys' past experience or recovering together or anything like that?
I wouldn't call it a friendship, but like, it actually is funny because, when you're in that community, right? Just like any community where a lot of people, like sort of like college or something, you're just a bunch of people all meeting each other, and you sort of see each other all the time, and some people and some people you don't know. And then I remember one night back then there was this club Les Deux. Do you remember Les Deux?
Oh yeah.
So that Monday nights at Les Deux was just the thing. And I remember being there, and I'm with my friend, and suddenly Matthew comes up to me and he's like, "Hey, blah, blah, blah," and all chatting me up. And my friend's like, "I didn't know you knew Matthew Perry." And I go, "I didn't either," because it's that thing where you're seeing someone all the time. And, for whatever reason, that was the time he chose to acknowledge that, we knew each other. But no, friend, no. But he's, was always very nice.
No, it's very cool. Very cool. Well, listen, congratulations on the book. It's very exciting.
Wait, is there any potential of this thing being made into a movie? Yes, no?
Yes. I mean, right now, like I said, it's been optioned over and over again. It was initially optioned for Lindsay Lohan to star in.
Oh, we didn't even get back to Lindsay Lohan. So that is that.
Oh yeah. Look.
Getting back.
That's my full circle moment. It wasn't intentional, but I will say this is what happened. So the book came out right when she was acting crazy. Paris Hilton was out there, and Britney was in her like tailspin. And so I suddenly was being asked to go on CNN and talk about the party girl phenomenon. And it was hilarious because that really became my beat. I probably went on 30 shows talking about the party girl phenomenon. It was amazing publicity for my book, but at no other time has there been this, party girl phenomenon. It feels like such a simpler time.
You know what, though? People are still obsessed with 2007.
Yeah.
To this day, I think that is the one year that everyone still talks about because of that trifecta with Brittany, Lindsay, and Paris. Like, I've never had to talk about a year so much in my entire entertainment career as 2007.
Fascinating. That is so interesting.
I did a big interview with like the New York Times like a little bit ago, and it was about Brittany in 2007. I did The Ringer.
Yeah.
People are so obsessed with it.
Yeah, now it's back then party girls, now pandemics. I mean, bring me back to 2007.
Well, we wish you much luck with your book. I'm excited for you. I hope that this gets the revamp it deserves. I hope that it lands in movie theaters one day so that everyone can watch it for all those people that are lame and don't want to read. So
it's on audio. If you're someone listening to this podcast, you could go get the audiobook.
Well, thank you for joining us. And where can people are you on social media, or, where can people find you and follow you?
Yeah, I'm on all the platforms at Anna B. David. And then for information about the book, partygirlrelaunch.com is the website.
Cool. Well, thank you.
Thank you so much. This was super fun.
Dude, I find those stories interesting.
Those are the most interesting stories. Again,
because these are people, we consider them colleagues because we kind of worked in the same field. And I'm always curious about people who worked in our fields, also experiences, like who was cool, who wasn't, how was your red carpet experience? And, it's one of those things we spoke about today. That's something I never really talk about. And we kind of talked about in the beginning was how really shitty the red carpets are. They put the biggest media at the beginning and how everyone's all seems nice in the beginning, and then it gets down and they just basically get skipped.
They just walk right past.
It's not even worth going. It's honestly, you're doing more of a favor for the red carpet and the company, trying to make them seem like it's a bigger deal, but they don't do anything back for you. So you get dressed up and it really does not too much for you.
No, what I like is sometimes we'll focus on like who's a shitty star, but I liked hearing these people that go out of their way and they get a good experience.
Majority of them are good people.
Yeah.
Right? Majority of celebrities are good people.
But you know what else I liked? I liked the Kate Hudson story.
Yes.
Because that is pure Hollywood right there in regards to, I'm going to wine and dine and make this interviewer feel like my best friend, because then I'm going to have an amazing article come out about me. Like that wasn't by accident. That people do this all the time. They're huge stars and they're like, if I make this person feel really good, they're going to write the best possible article about me, but I don't really care about them.
Yeah. Listen, I have that internal struggle all the time. There's some celebrities that are very nice to me and I'm like, are they being nice to me because they actually really like me, or are they trying to be nice because I'm in the media? And it's, dude, I fall for it. I don't give a shit.
The amount of celebs that like I thought I was friends with, I thought I was friends with, and then when I left TMZ, they didn't answer my call anymore. And I'm like, the fuck? We hung out. Like we would go to dinner together. We would do this together. We would go to a club together. And now you just don't answer my phone. Like, you realize how many fake relationships you have with people based on your job. I mean, it's insane.
Yeah, no, I never had that issue because, obviously I'm a big deal. But it's fine. But again, we got a video component of this podcast. It's on YouTube. You can follow us on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. We're on all social media channels. You could go to thehollywoodraw.com. We have merch. We have news. We have celebrity stories on there. It's a really cool website to keep tabs on everything.
And by the way, go watch the YouTube video, because it's the first time Adam and I can be together. It's so fun.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Here, it's unusual. We got this fun little backdrop. I mean, we kind of look professional.
We kind of look like we're in the game right now. Yes, it's we had to come to Omaha to be professional. So but it's very cool. But we're gonna start doing this more often. We're gonna be going to different coasts, from New York to LA to back to Nebraska. But we got some very cool people coming up on the podcast. You can find me at Adam Glyn, GLYN. You can find this guy, Dax Holt, at DAXHOLT. See you guys next time.
Thanks for watching Hollywood Raw. Thank you for joining us. Make sure you thumbs up to this video, subscribe. That way we can give you endless content from inside Hollywood.